30-minute reviews, beware of spoilers, and exploring hyperspace lanes are all available ad-free. But if you want to support the show, you can go to bewareofspoilers.com and click the support button that's available on the Spotify website. Thank you. Good morning, and welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam, from my overdramatically loud car, because it is cold. So what we have today is the new episode of Percy Jackson. And I gotta say, I've said it every week, really enjoying this show. I think this is one of Disney's strongest new Disney Plus shows. I think that more Disney Plus shows should aim to be like this. I mean, like, here's the thing. And I think, too, it's like, this show is doing so well, it's doing better than most of the other Marvel shows. To which I ask now, like, why would you sell the Spider-Man Chronicles? And I've talked about it before, right? Where this idea that Disney should aim to turn, like, Lucasfilm into, like, Clark's World. Or Asimov's Science Fiction Magazine. For those who don't know, those are science fiction magazines that do collections of short stories, and it elevates newer writers and stuff like that. And what the point of this is had they done that, it would have given them a platform to elevate stories in a way that, Rick Riordan himself does. Like, we talked about this last on 30-minute reviews when we talked about the loss of Children of Blood and Bone, where they had optioned the rights to that book and then let the rights lapse before doing anything, and now it's being developed over at Paramount from the director of The Woman King, which is just fantastic. I'm looking forward to that a lot. Like, it has the potential now to be the Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban of YA adaptations. Regardless, I mean, the point I'm trying to make is, like, if this is doing so well for them, and this show is this high quality, why are we not doing this with every Disney Plus, with every opportunity to try and elevate existing IP? Because the key is, like, I think to an extent Disney wants to keep IP in-house. Like, they want to keep track of, like, okay, so we have X, we have Y, we have Z, we have these already, let's just keep doing these until the end of time. And I get that. I can understand, not that I get it, I can understand that logic. But books have a built-in fan base. You don't have to market a book to a fan base. They're already going to show up for it. And as evidenced by Percy Jackson doing that. And as evidenced by the outcry over the Spiderwick Chronicles. And look, there were other things like, the issue where the writer would not get the rights back because they had produced it and just never released it, would never get the rights back to option it into the studio. And there is an issue about, Disney having control of that many IPs, but there's so many books out there. Like, there was one I read fairly recently, The Unwanteds, which is, I think it's a mid-grade, about, they get sorted into, like, practical and impractical, and the impractical gets saved. Instead of, like, they're supposed to be killed, but they get saved and brought to this magical world where they use the arts to create magic. They can create magic with music, with writing, with, with art, that kind of stuff. And it's a really cool idea. And I'm like, why was this not something that done more? Or the perennial example I always go back to, Charlie Bone, which was the contrarian choice to Harry Potter if you're my age. Like, There was that one kid who always would read Charlie Bone and would not shut the fuck up about it and act like you're the asshole for reading Harry Potter. I mean, it turns out he ended up being right, but, you know, how did he know at the time? You know, that kind of thing. So, that said, this episode follows the continuing adventures of Percy and Annabeth and I can never remember his fucking name, the other kid. As they go to the casino where Hermes is hanging out, and Hermes is played by Lin-Manuel Miranda. Good for him, I guess. It's weird to have him be Hermes. You would have thought you would have gone with one of, like, the gods of, like, theater. It is what it is. Regardless, he's playing Hermes. And because Hermes has some issues with his son, they're going to use that to try and get him to help out as they go to, as they try to make their way to the underworld. But this casino pulls from the Odyssey, and the flowers inside cause people to forget what their mission is, where they're going, who they are, all that kind of stuff. So it's an interesting race against the clock episode as they deal with this casino that exists kind of outside of space and time. Not outside of space, outside of time. To figure out what what's going on with, everything there. And then trying to convince Hermes to help them, because Hermes being delivery man, he's got methods of travel that would get them to Santa Monica Pier way quicker. And I'm interested to see where this goes next. I do enjoy the evolving dynamic, and I think part of the reason why I can't remember his name is because I did not like his arc this episode, with him going after trying to find Pan. And it's like, I don't think that was set up properly in this episode. In any episode prior to this, where it's like, Pan's been missing and they're trying to find, I don't think that was properly set up at any, up until this point. I could be wrong though. But either way, it's like, that plot arc didn't quite gel with me, so it's like, all right, I'm more focused on the Percy and Annabeth story because that's more interesting. And to his credit, I mean, people were joking about, the way Lin-Manuel Miranda looks as Hermes in this episode, where it's like, it's Lin-Manuel Miranda exactly as you've seen him before, because it's him in a sweatshirt, and it's like, oh yeah, I've seen this. But the issue is, I think he has acted different here than I've seen him act in other places. And keep in mind that the acting catalog of Lin-Manuel Miranda that I've seen is I haven't seen, but he played. I've listened to the soundtrack for In the Heights, for the original Broadway recording, where he played Usnavi, which eventually Anthony Ramos did in the movie. I saw him as the guy who sells the ices in the movie. I've seen him as Hamilton, and I've seen him in that one episode of Modern Family that he shows up in. So it's not exactly a robust catalog, but I see him play a role. I have not seen. That was the other big movie he was in. I have not seen Mary Poppins. But either way, the point I'm trying to make is from what I've seen, he's kind of always plays kind of the same or similar kind of thing. So to play someone who has kind of gravitas to it is a little interesting, and he's not terrible at it. Maybe we can get this is a man who we mock Bradley Cooper for wanting the Oscar that badly, and wanting the Oscar. I mean, Lin-Manuel Miranda wants the EGOT. Let's be honest with ourselves. He is he is after that EGOT. He is just the Oscar away. And I think he's gonna get it one day. But I'm starting to think that his path to it might be in acting, because it seems like him doing his music is not getting him, is not getting him over that finish line. And I don't think Scuttlebutt's gonna get him nominated this year. That said, he has been kind of quiet lately, which is a little disconcerting. I mean, does this mean that there's something coming? Not disconcerting. It just sounds like there's some kind of, like, ominous undertone to him, you know, working on something. Regardless, the point is, you know, we have, we do have him have a, he's interesting in this, at least, and he plays it, you know, well enough where I don't know about fully care, but I can get invested enough in what he's doing, like what he's talking about, like how the gods, you know, are omnipotent, but they still can't handle interpersonal relationships. It's like, and parental relationships, it's like that hits. And it's that's a cool grounding moment. And I think that's one of the things that this show is doing very well by portraying the gods as humans. A lot of the times between Ares in the last episode and well, Diogenes, I think was his name, the god of machines, and Chiron. Like, the thing that's really working is taking the gods and portraying them as humans, to ground them as humans. And you're taking these people with extraordinary power and giving them, you know, and grounding them in a way that I can care about. And it'll be interesting to see, like, does, you know, and this is someone who hasn't watched the, who hasn't watched the original movie, who hasn't, you know, read the book. Like, Hades is the bad guy. But in Greek mythology, like, Hades being a bad guy is a more modern interpretation because of how we look at the concept of death. But Hades isn't a bad guy in Greek mythology. He's just the god of death, the overseer of the underworld. And if that's the case, then where does that go? And how does that work? And does this show carry on with that? Because a lot of the things that we're seeing in this show are kind of, you know, carrying on more modern interpretations of these characters. And I think, you know, to that end, it's like when we talked about Medusa had that, you know, had the moment where she's like, yeah, I mean, I was devoted to Athena, and she, you know, and she cursed me after Zeus raped her. And it's like, oh, that's a very modern interpretation. And then it all goes out the window when he cuts her head off. It feels very like Promising Young Woman, and it's like, yeah, I don't think that's the message you want to send, but whatever, it is what it is. And it's a different situation for Promising Young Woman, but whatever. So the point I'm trying to make is, if you are, you know, if you're trying to find something to watch that's mildly entertaining week to week and not a huge time sink, this is for you. This is definitely the show for you. It's fun, and the dynamic between, you know, the dynamic with the characters is always really fun, and that's kind of what, like, that was where, Hector is his name? No. It's something like that, where it's like, Grover's his name. It's like, I'm like, it's always something like, it's a fucking Muppet, Grover. But yeah, it is a, like, it's one of those things where it's like, once he shows up, it's like he, like, when he comes back after going off on his little mission to, you know, to see where Pan went, when he's like, he has no memory, he plays that very well, the actor. Sorry about the distraction, I had a guy trying to, you know, almost hit me. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, when he plays the, I don't know what's going on, like, oh, is it dangerous? I mean, that's not a deal breaker. Like the way he delivers the lines while he's doing that is so entertaining, and it makes it's just really fun, and it does, you know, it brings a level of, like, there are dire stakes, and they make sure you know there are dire stakes, but it gives you a level of like levity to it that's not breaking the immersion. It's just giving you a moment to take a breath. But we'll wrap up there for today. Tomorrow morning we'll be doing both the most recent 2 episodes of True Detective. Then we'll be doing what was the next one? Then that's Tuesday. Wednesday we'll be doing that new show with Peter Capaldi on Apple TV Plus. That's the name I gotta remember. And Thursday back with Percy Jackson. I think Wednesday evening we're going to be doing American Fiction. I was going to do that on Saturday. Again, apologies. I had something come up and I couldn't do it Saturday. Namely, I was getting my car, looked at to get my state inspection, and that devolved into a $400 clusterfuck of a cost. No matter, it is what it is. So I got my car inspected, and that took up most of my day. And then yesterday I was just at Freud's last session, and then that got screwed up by something else that came up. But regardless, we are going to talk about American Fiction. This weekend, I think we're going to have a pretty light weekend because of the fact that there are no major releases. But yeah, we will wrap up there for today. And until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.